What's up, guys? TB here. Episode 65 of My Hero Academia Season 4 came out today, named Overhaul, which is cool because we finally get to see a little bit more of him. At the very end of Season 3, we got to see him use his quirk, but we never know what it was called, what does it do, anything like that. We get way more information about him and how he uses it, how he activates it in this episode. I want to say something that's my personal opinion from the beginning. Maybe some people disagree, but the very beginning of this episode is very strong, and the very end of this episode is very strong. The very middle, I feel like it's just weak. I don't know exactly why. I just felt like it didn't transition very well from focusing on the villains to focusing on the heroes. They've already done that, and I feel like this season they're going to do that a lot. They're going to show the students doing their thing, then they're going to show the villains doing their thing, and then eventually, they're going to come together and they're going to clash. Of course, we know that. I've read the manga, so of course I will not be spoiling anything when I, do these reviews. I'm just going to go over what happened in the episode. But from the very beginning, we see Midoriya talking to Gran Torino on the cell phone because he's trying to get a head start on his work studies, because after everything that happened, the students are going to go practice again. And what are they going to do to get their practice? They got to practice with pro heroes and their agency. He's talking to Gran Torino, and Gran Torino's like, sorry, I really don't have the time for you right now. Like, I can't hang out with you, I can't chill with you, I can't train you. How about you talk to All Might, and maybe he can introduce you to someone who can be willing to train you. And that's when Night Eye comes up, because Night Eye used to be All Might's sidekick back in the day when he was actually, doing his pro hero thing. Not anymore. A little back on that soon, but now we're going to transition to the heroes. We see twice with Overhaul. Apparently he's coming in to recruit him into the League of Villains. They show up, the League is there, and they're like, who is this person? We don't know who he is. Obviously Tomura knows exactly who he is, and they explain where he comes from. He's part of the Yakuza, he's got his own little clan, and apparently before the age of heroes and villains and people having quirks, obviously, like in real life, who do you think would rule the underworld? The mob, gangsters, people who rule with cash, money, drugs, and stuff like that. Back then, the Yakuza, or I guess even like the Latin Kings, or the mob, whatever you want to call it, and stuff like that, they actually, ruled with the way that they used to do things. But now that people have superpowers, now that there's villains and there's superheroes, organizations like this don't really have a place anymore. Even so far, Mr. Compress says like, oh, he's outdated. Like, he's useless. Why is he here? How is he going to help the cause, basically? Because everything is quirk related now. And he's like, yeah, that's true. We're not as strong as we used to be. But after All Might went into retirement for defeating All for One, both sides have lost their sort of symbol. The heroes have lost the symbol of peace, All Might, and the villains have lost, I guess the symbol of villainy, All for One. So he has a plan to sort of resurrect or sort of bring up the villains, bring them all up together under his banner, under his plan. He wants to be the new leader. And Torma is like, I don't know what you're talking about. If you knew who my master was, if you really knew who All for One was, you wouldn't have any doubts. I'm gonna be the leader. He's already amassing all these new villains, and he's gonna build up this power so he can crush the heroes once and for all. And Overhaul is like, if you have an idea and you don't have a plan, that's just delusional. You're saying you're going to do all these things, but you don't have any plan for how you're going to carry it out. And then they sort of have a clash of ideals where the League of Villains wants to do things their way, and Overhaul and his crew want to do things his way. And he's like, listen, guys, I know that you got strength and your name is getting up there, you're always in the news. If you follow me, if you come under my rule, under my jurisdiction, I'll use you well. Because obviously Tomura doesn't know how to use you well after what happened with Moonfish and Muscular and Stain. Even though Stain didn't really agree with the way the League of Villains was doing things in the first place, Stain was never really gonna be with them. He's like, I'll show you how to do things. And that is kind of the last straw for Magne. It sucks what happens to Magne in this episode, but Magne basically, he touches the nerve with Magne. He's like, we're all here because we want to be. No one forced us to be here, and no one's telling us what to do. He's like, no one's gonna tell me what to do. He charges against Overhaul, and this is when we see Overhaul use his quirk. At first we're like, what's he gonna do? Because Magne is able to magnetically, push or pull people towards him. He takes off his glove, which is obviously covering his hands, and we now know that he needs his hands to activate his quirk. He only touches Magne a little bit, a tiny little bit. You see his skin bubble on his arm and on his face, and then he just explodes. He just blows up the whole top half of his body, similar to what happened with Cell in Dragon Ball Z. When Goku did the Kamehameha wave and when Vegeta did the final flash, his body just, that's what it reminds me of for some reason. I don't really know. And you see Overhaul's reaction to this. He's kind of like disgusted. He's like, oh, this is why I hate doing this. I hate blowing up people with my power, because then I get all bloody. Obviously, he did what he did to protect himself. Not really because he wanted to kill Magne, but hey, when someone's coming at you, you gotta flex your power a little bit. And if people die, well, obviously he's a villain, so he doesn't really care. After that, Mr. Compress comes and he's like, don't worry guys, I'll get rid of him. I'll put him inside my little ball like he did Bakugo. And you see right in the corner of this frame here, what looks like a bullet comes out of nowhere and it hits him. Once it hits him, he's like, what's going on? I can't use my quirk. And then Overhaul is like, you better not touch me, you better not lay a finger on me. Boom! Uses his other hand to just totally destroy Mr. Compress's arm. I don't know if he can use the other arm to fight, but that arm has gone forever and is not coming back. And you see another bullet come out of nowhere, because obviously Tomura wants to get in on this. He's not going to let his friends just get taken out one by one. He's coming in there because he's going to use his quirk to, fossilize or petrify. His quirk is called Decay, so he's trying to kill, Overhaul at this point. They try to shoot another bullet at him. Obviously it misses, it doesn't hit him. And that's when Overhaul comes and asks for his shield, for his protection, and he dies. So now it's really 1-for-1. Both sides have one person that's dead, because once you get touched by Tomura, you're pretty much dead. If he wants you dead and he touches you, you're gonna die. And this is when they're both like, okay, we should stop right now before any more casualties happen, because you lost a guy, I lost a guy, one of your guys lost an arm, so we owe you an arm. He's like casually talking about it. We should regroup, we should talk again another day after we cool off, you know what I mean? He still wants to talk. After all of this, he's like, oh, it's not like we're completely incompatible, it's just right now we have different views. So maybe sometime soon they're gonna talk again and they're gonna work stuff out, and maybe they can work together. But right now, this meeting was completely botched. It did not make any sense for them to bring in Overhaul, because he has his own aspirations, his own desires and dreams, which differ from the League of Villains. They thought that they were bringing him in so he could be a part of their crew, and he was like, no, I'm here to meet you to see if you want to be a part of my crew. At the end, Tomura is like, you're gonna pay for this. I don't know how, but you're gonna pay for this. It's gonna cost you a lot. So obviously Tomura didn't have any plans in his head to work with Overhaul, but Overhaul still might have some plans for him. We don't know yet. We'll see. That's the very beginning of the episode. It's like the first 11 minutes, 10.5 minutes. It's crazy. It's crazy. And this is that not so great transition that I was talking about. We transition to the kids. They're talking to Eraserhead, and Eraserhead's like, some of the pro heroes here that are teaching at this school don't want you to take any work studies. They think after everything that's happened, you should just work on your quirks, stay in school. Midoriya's like, let me go talk to All Might. Maybe he can introduce me into Nidai because he knows Nidai. And All Might's like, I have 3 reasons why I'm telling you no. The first reason is why I was a part of the group that said students shouldn't be taking work studies, so he didn't even agree with it, off the rip. He doesn't agree with it. The second, he's like, you should work more on your shoot style. And I feel like when he said this, I kind of resonated with that. I agreed with that a lot. Midoriya is always constantly learning new techniques and new moves and new ways to use his quirk, but it feels like he never really perfects them to a T. He always keeps moving on to the next thing and the next thing and building his kit. He's building his kit, which is great. He's learning his fighting style, what he likes to do, how he wants to use his quirk, maybe building up his tolerance so he can use, more than 8%. Because when he fought Bakugo, it went from 5 to 8. Maybe he could use 10 and 15 and 20. Maybe he goes up in whatever increments if he just practices. So All Might's like, you gotta practice. And the third, he's like, I can't speak to Nidai. Apparently they had some sort of disagreement, some sort of falling out. He can't really speak to Nidai right now. He's like, just because I can't introduce you to Nidai doesn't mean that nobody can. So he picks up whoever is in charge of the loudspeaker in the school, I guess, and he calls Mirio. Mirio is currently under Night Eye in his work study, and Mirio, I believe, is a third year. Midoriya is still a first year, so they're quite a ways apart. But obviously, Mirio is in connection with Night Eye, and he's like, will you introduce him to Night Eye? You think Night Eye will take him in for a work study? And after asking him some questions, because Mirio kind of wants to know where Midoriya's head is at, what kind of hero he wants to be, see if he's a good fit in the first place to even go to his agency. So they have this conversation, and I always like to see where Midoriya's head is at, because sometimes I feel like he's just focused on getting better, you know, about using his quirk, and other times it's like he doesn't really know exactly what he's doing. Like, he hasn't had all the time in the world to really think about what it means to be a hero, to work on his quirk, to do these things that all these kids have done their whole entire life. Every single person who's in that class with Midoriya has had their quirk since age 3, 4, 5, and he literally got his only a couple months ago. Maybe it's been a year now since like he first joined the school. I feel like he really needs time to reflect on what type of hero he wants to be. And at first, he was gonna spit out verbatim what All Might says. He wants to save people with a smile. And then he was like, wait, no. I want to be super freaking strong and reliable, so whenever people need me, I'll be able to be there for them, and they won't have to worry about me. When they're in trouble, I'll save them no matter what. That's what he wants. And that's kind of what he did with Koda when he was fighting Muscular, although he messed up his arm pretty bad. And then Mirio was like, good, I'll introduce you to Night Eye. So they introduced Midoriya to Night Eye right at the end of the episode, and Mirio was like, I have some advice for you. If you want him to take you in, you gotta make him laugh. You gotta do it. And we see why, because he has a sidekick named Bubble Girl, and Bubble Girl fails to make Night Eye laugh, and Night Eye legit ties Bubble Girl to this chair, this sort of contraption where it's like forcing her to laugh by tickling her with some feathers of some crap. It kind of looks like some BDSM sort of a thing, although obviously not as weird as that, but it's still pretty weird. Midoriya tries to put on his best All Might face, and it doesn't work. It doesn't make him funny. It's like, are you making fun of All Might? Who do you think you are? And then the episode ends. Next episode obviously is going to be some sort of test between Night Eye and Midoriya. I'm not going to explain why, because again, that would be spoilers. But Night Eye does not have a lot of confidence in who Midoriya is, and him being the next symbol of peace. We kind of saw a hint of it in this episode, where even All Might was like, if he didn't meet Midoriya, Mirio would have been the next symbol of peace. He would have transferred his powers over to Mirio. So it wouldn't even have been Bakugo. It wouldn't have been, anyone. It would have been Mirio. Episode was good overall. I don't have a score or a letter or anything like that. I just feel like the middle transition area was a little bit weak, but it's a good episode. If you guys have any questions, any comments, please put it down below in the comment section. I appreciate that. Some more videos are going to come out. Doing this every single week. If you like it, like it. Simple, pretty easy. And I'll see you next time. Peace.